Her voice is devoid of bitterness when she mentions Coyote Pass. No tears, no nostalgia, just relief. She says it plain as can be, almost quietly, that settling the matter of Coyote Pass will bring closure at last. Not happiness, not triumph, just closure. I'm actually going to be relieved, she admits, because once the land is sold and the money is distributed, it will finally be done. The sentence that follows says everything about how far this family has drifted apart. I don't have any more financial attachment to you at all. Coyote Pass was the future. It was supposed to be that place where everything came back together. Homes, side by side, grandchildren running through the dirt, shared holidays, and shared purpose. Instead, it became the last thing that tied people together who no longer wanted to be tied at all. And now, it's just a problem to solve. Still today, Coyote Pass remains unsettled, still incomplete, still an ulcer. The land just sits there, symbolic and weighty, dragging everyone back into discourses they'd rather have long left behind. Nobody's dreaming of building anymore. Nobody's talking about legacy. Resolution is the only thing now. She does not care how fast it sells. She doesn't know it's tomorrow or next week or next month. She just wants it to be over with. Fairness comes up, as it does almost uniformly, but with a bitter edge. Fairness, she says, seems only to matter when it serves Kody Brown. The rules shift, depending on who they are applied to. Accountability is flexible. Responsibility is selective. And then, of course, there's the cleanup afterward. The blame, the finger-pointing, the constant implication that some individuals should be doing more, fixing more, carrying more weight. She's supposed to clean it up, take the blame for stuff she didn't leave behind, deal with RV remnants and storage and debris, problems created during a time when everyone was still faking like they were in it together. But she's not inspired to do it, not any longer. Not for individuals who have not been kind, not for relationships that no more exist, not for a future that has already died. It feels to her like someone is always looking for something, anything to pin on her, some new responsibility, some fresh accusation, some way to keep the conflict alive a little longer. And she's exhausted by it. She does not seek vengeance. She doesn't want excuses. She wants it done, basically. That is what Coyote Pass has boiled down to now. Paperwork, laviers, titles, deadlines, emails, signatures, time clocks ticking down on contracts, not giving a damn about feelings or history. There's something weirdly crystal about that. Paper doesn't argue. Deadlines don't manipulate. Contracts don't rewrite the past. They simply move things forward, or they expire. When it closes, everybody gets paid. When the money is divided, the last string is cut. Once the ink is dry, there is nothing to negotiate. And therein lies the relief. Not because the land didn't matter, but because it mattered too much for too long. It held too many expectations, too many broken promises, too many reminders of what was supposed to happen and never did. She admits she'll miss it, sort of. The memories, the openness, the idea of it. There's nostalgia there, quietly sitting beneath the surface. But nostalgia isn't strong enough to keep fighting. She's down to earth now, practical, focused. If you had asked her years ago if she thought it would end like this with lawyers instead of laughter, with title transfers instead of family meetings, she would have said no, never. But life evolved, the family evolved, and this is simply where things landed. There was no such thing as a dramatic adieu to the Coyote Pass, with no final ceremony, no shared moment of closure, just a collective understanding that when this deal closes, everybody walks away lighter. No more shared assets, no more shared responsibility, no more financial attachments masquerading as family. Once it is done, it becomes a memory. And memories, at any rate, don't demand quid pro quo. It's been about a year and a half since Meri planted her feet at the B&B and decided, quietly, firmly, that this would be her reset. Not some new chapter, as one would say on the internet in the most cliched of manners. For real. The kind where you wake up and your chest doesn't tighten the second you remember who you used to be for someone else. She says it simply, things are good. And the way she says it does matter, because it's not performative. It is neither defensive nor trying to convince anybody. It's the kind of calm that only comes after the storm has finally moved on. I like my life. And right there, in that one sentence, is the boundary she's been building brick by brick. She doesn't need anyone showing up to her life like a surprise repairman, either thinking she's a problem to be fixed. The last thing she needs is for some person to barge in with unsolicited advice and messy energy in that tone, "Let me help you." Like help's always clean. Help don't come with strings attached. And she definitely does not need any person trying to find her a man. Like that is the final stamp of success. She does not want to be rescued. She's interested in being understood. In this season of her life, she still has family interaction, but it's selective. It's measured. There are people she can talk to easily, naturally. And then there are relationships that are almost non-existent. Not because she's bitter, because she's realistic. When you've spent years being forced into dynamics that drain you, you eventually learn that distance isn't punishment, it's protection. And Meri has learned how to protect her peace. That's why the B&B feels different. It is hers. It is solid. It is not a communal place filled with a variety of different expectations. It is not a spot where you are always looking over your shoulder, wondering how your words will be twisted later. It's home, with rules. And one of those rules is simple. You don't get to enter her life with chaos anymore. So she starts doing this thing that, I know, sounds small, but isn't. She puts herself out there. Not in some sort of romantic, comedy-esque montage of makeover and renewal, but in very real, very normal human ways. Community events, random little classes, where nobody knows her history, at least at the coffee shops, unless she tells them. Places where she can just be. And that's the point. Because after years of being Meri from that family, she's trying to find her bearings as just Meri. A woman who can walk into a room and not feel like she's bringing a whole complicated past with her like luggage. Of course, it doesn't really count as easy. It feels strange to even date when you have lived in a world where your identity was tied into the structure, the system, and to a marriage that was supposed to be eternal. Meri wasn't just leaving a relationship. She stepped out of an entire culture of expectations. It is then that, when someone asks her out, there's a pause, a tension, because part of her still hears the old warnings. Don't trust, don't risk, don't hope too hard. And yet, she tries. That's how she ends up at speed dating. 10 minutes at a time, opposite strangers, and trying to compact all of the personality into polite questions and small talk. It's awkward at times, painfully awkward. The kind where you ask something real and you get a one-word answer back. The kind where you realize halfway through that the vibe is dead and you're just waiting for the dinner bell to rescue you. But then sometimes it's fun. Sometimes the conversation flows. Sometimes she laughs, genuinely. Sometimes she meets someone who feels normal in the best way. Someone who shows up dressed like they actually care. Someone who doesn't bring weird energy. Someone who doesn't turn her life story into a joke. Because yes, that is part of her reality nowadays. The hardest part is, of course, not knowing if they even recognize her. If they're familiar with, if they know the family, if they know the headlines, if they think they know her. And Meri is weary of being known in all the wrong ways. She's interested in finding someone who likes Meri, not the storyline, not the history, not the baggage, not the mythology people attach to her name. Meri, simply. And the thing is, she has standards now. This isn't the Meri from years ago that was trying to force things to work because she thought she had to. This is the Meri who has lived through enough to stop settling. She calls it being more discriminating because she is. She's not desperate. She is not hurrying. She's not accepting, almost. She is seeking actual compatibility, real compassion, real depth. She wants someone who can meet her where she is now, not where she used to be. She knows what she likes. She likes dogs. She loves to travel. She likes warmth, adventure, and conversations that don't feel like a performance. And yes, she jokes about the 6-feet-tall thing. She always does. It's playful, not rigid. It's her sense of humor peeking through the serious parts. Tall would be great, but it's not required. Because, quite frankly, she isn't chasing a checklist. She's chasing peace. A relationship which will not cost her the loss of her dignity. A connection that does not make her feel small. A partner who isn't intimidated by her independence or addicted to her emotional labor. And maybe that's the biggest shift of all. Meri is not asking, does someone want me? She's asking, do I want this? That is what boundaries do. They don't close the door on love. They let only the right people have a key. And just when she thinks that maybe something new is building, that she's finally standing on solid ground, that old shadow is still there in the background. Coyote Pass. Still unruly, still dragging, still waiting. And the tension's so simple. How do you fully move on when the past still has paperwork left to sign? Years of her life, plural marriage wasn't just a lifestyle. It was identity, belief system, and calling. It shaped each decision, sacrifice, and compromise. It wasn't something to be questioned lightly, and it's something you defended well past the hurt. But in this moment, the conversation does sound different. It's keener, less idealistic, more candid. Robyn and Kody sit together, talking about plural marriage, not as a plan, but as a hypothetical. And that in itself says everything, because when something becomes hypothetical, it's already slipping away. Another wife, only theoretically, of course. And the answer comes fast, almost instinctive. No, not out of envy, not because of anger, but out of fear. There's an understanding now that wasn't there before. How you do anything is how you do everything. And if they were to try plural marriage again, they already know how it would end. They'd mess that up too. That realization lands heavy. Because once upon a time, plural marriage felt divinely guided. There was a strong spiritual witness, a belief that this was the path they were meant to walk. It gave meaning to the sacrifices. It justified the pain. But that pull isn't there anymore. It's as if the faith that made sense of it all has shut up, and all that's left is the mechanics, the jealousy, the imbalance, the competition, the emotional fallout. And suddenly, the question isn't why did plural marriage fail? It's why would anyone try it again? The conversation gets awkward, because honesty usually does. Motivations are exposed, and not all of them sound quite so noble anymore. There is mention of attraction, about desire, about wanting something more, something that could threaten the fragile balance that already exists. Words come out crass, clumsy, even ugly. And Robyn calls it what it is, a pig. Well, for one, when you remove the religious talk and the ideology, what you're left with is something that must, at least, at that point, it does not. This notion of adding a new woman to the relationship without actually offering her something more substantial, such as commitment, security, or equality, is far from plural marriage. It reeks more of exploitation, a concubine. This word lingers in the air because it is true, and truth is uncomfortable. Most women are not an accessory to a marriage. They need love, tenderness, companionship, depth of emotion. They need to be chosen, not managed. And that's when the truth reveals itself. Plural marriage failed not only through external forces, but also failed because it required a certain degree of emotional maturity that was either non-existent or lacking through leadership. Kody admits it for possibly the first time without deflecting. He failed as the head of the family. He did not possess the skill set to successfully juggle multiple relationships with equity, reassurance, and presence. This is the situation that festers instead of dealing with the initial failure. Instead of accountability, anger took precedence. Control replaced connection. Instead of trust, silence replaced. This time, there is regret. Real regret. Not the type that seeks forgiveness, but the type that understands it is too late to make amend. He speaks of the pain of it, of the extent of its failure, and of the high standard that would have to be set if it were to be re-evaluated. Not mere appearance, not desire. Devotion through and through, and to Robyn, of course. And that is the point where polygamy meets its end. This is, of course, since plural marriage, by definition, cannot coexist with one of the wives having to be loved more than all others in order to feel safe. It's a mother's dream to be with their child before they graduate from college. She is frightened of it now, frightened of the turmoil, frightened of the competition, frightened of reopening wounds that were still healing. She does not know how she could even think of it herself, and that is the answer. So the decision is made not with celebration, but with resignation. It's you and me, monog. There's a strange finality to it. No cheers, no relief, only acceptance. But nonetheless, even after verbalizing it, it's not easy. It conflicts with deep levels of who they thought they once were, against the years of training, tradition, and personal sacrifice. In order to say, I'm done with plural marriage, it means surrendering a sense of themselves that informed their whole life. It's confusing. It is uncomfortable. It is a work in progress. There are still questions. Questions that still need answers that may never be found. Questions that still seek answers to what happened. Questions that still ask what could have happened if it happened earlier. One thing is certain, however. Now plural marriage is no longer in the future. It's a past. But then the attention turns, not to constructing an extensive family, but to preserving what is left. A smaller, more tranquil relationship. A happy little kingdom, as it is called. One founded on fear as much as it is on love. If it works for them or not is something they can't yet prove. But for now, it is the only one that doesn't feel like self-destruction. And with the fading of the music, there is no grand finale but only the weight of what could be called a closing of a chapter. Not with certainty, but with finality. There was a point where the mess was almost comforting. Kids everywhere, noise in every room, life stacked upon life. A full house like that, though, no one would ever feel alone. That was the dream, the promise of plural marriage. A big family means support, means happiness, means connection, all built in. But now, the silence seems louder. Kids are moving away, states apart, time zones apart. And with every goodbye, something shifts not just physically, but emotionally. It's not just distance, it's absence. North Carolina is more than just a point of notation on some geographical map. It is a symbol of something, a boundary between what once was and what no longer can be held together. When the decision is made to relocate, it is reasonable. It is sound, it is imperative, but reason does not temper loss. Every discussion about moving is like a small, painful break with the heart, as one woman writes, especially for the mothers, especially with the grandkids. There is an understanding of what is being lost with distance. It means lost moments. First, like a child learning to walk or talk, or a holiday drive that means a flight. It stings more than what I thought it would, admits Christine. It's like seeing my children walk away one by one. It's like seeing my heart get sucked out. These were her best friends, her sisters, her routine. Now, she is left with half of what once was. This is the guilt that creeps in, a guilt that is never discussed openly. Did I do something wrong? Am I a poor mother? It is always no, but the need does not hear logically. There is also resentment, though. It's silent but present, nonetheless. When other people talk about their grandkids being nearby, it hurts. It is not fair, that is for certain. It is like salt in an open wound. Even without malice, it is still painful to compare. The truth is, everyone is grieving something different. This is about opportunity for my Kelty and Tony. It is about chess, career, growth. It is about what adults are meant to do, make their own life. It is what grown-ups do, but there is a tinge of sadness about it too. They wanted to see Kody. They wanted a last visit before they left. It didn't happen. Schedules conflicted, plans shifted. And just like that, another missed opportunity is added to the list, another that falls away silently, without an argument or a closing of any kind. Such opportunities that were missed are beginning to shape the relationship. Kody is candid about this. Most of his relationships with his children are strained. There is trash talk. There is innuendo. There are hurt feelings conveyed through indirect communication channels, such as side conversations or social media posts. Loyalties are called into question. Trust is tenuous. But the point about strained relations is that they do not blow up. They wear down. Slowly, quiet. Christine remembers trying to get the family back together, she says. It's so exhausting to always be the one who is reaching out, hoping. You get to a point where it is more painful to try than it is to let go. I need to do my own thing. That sentence isn't driven by selfishness. It is driven by survival. But still, she hopes. At the end of it all, she knows that they are still a family. A broken one. A complicated one. But still, a family. It is here that traditions become the glue that holds what is left together. Christmas trees that are taken from communally owned land. Decorating outside, as opposed to decorating inside. Caroling that is awkward at first, but then becomes increasingly warm. It is not perfect. It is not clean or crisp or sterile. It is real. It means that these moments count more now since there are fewer of them. Christine and Janelle make a conscious decision about their friendship, not just because it is easy, but because it is relevant. It survived the marriage, the order, the systems of hierarchy. It is independent of Kody at this point, and that is an empowering thought. They decide to remain sister wives, not by structure, but by heart. It is also a statement of defiance of everything that failed. But Kody is watching it all occur around him. Children growing up, moving on, building lives that no longer center on him. A power that once resided with Kody does not necessarily mean that he is closer to these children. He wants things to be better between himself and his children. He says so, but wanting things to be better is not the same as fixing things. It is true that he is still in. Distance clarifies everything and hardens it. There is grief in realizing that the family you thought you would have does not exist as you would have thought it would. That plural marriage does not mean being together. That numbers do not mean unity. The saddest truth is that it takes very little to. You can love your family dearly, but not live with those and still not know how to retain that relation. But as the episode unfolds, there aren't any answers, only feelings, only fatigue, only the silent understanding that this is what this stage of life looks like, unlike the dream they marketed to the world. And yet there is resilience here. They're adapting, redefining, letting go of expectations that no longer serve them, choosing peace over performance. The family isn't whole in the way it once was. It is still alive. At times, that is enough too. At the end of it all, it doesn't come down to love. It boils down to paperwork, titles, deeds, lawyers, deadline. This is the humdrum pragmatics of falling apart. Coyote Pass, where unity, futurity, shared dreams were once embodied, is now a problem to be solved, not celebrated. And with that realization, there is a strange relief. Just get it done. Not with anger, not even with sadness. It is with exhaustion, of battles that never seemed to progress. When the property sells, the funds are allocated, and the signatures are taken care of. That is the end of it. No more shared finances. No more compelled communication. No more pretending that there is something left to negotiate. In some cases, that closing is clean. In other cases, it is empty. In both cases, it is a need. It's like Coyote Pass, Janelle says pragmatically. The land, memories, freedom for the children running through it. It is hard to let go. But it is harder to keep holding on. She is not trying to get back every dollar she invested into Robyn's and Kody's house. She knows what that would mean. It would mean an endless argument with shifting goalposts. There is a point where peace is more precious than fairness. It is a gift, she says, not for its freely given nature, but for the cost of retrieval, more than it is worth emotionally. This is what her children are clamoring for her to claim. Justice for her. She's had enough of something that demands her continuing emotional investment in that past she is trying to move away from. Not being done means not forgetting. It is the act of opting not to participate anymore. Kody, on the other hand, looks at the resolution in a completely different way. He says that the debts got paid off, that things were fair, that the books are clean. Whether or not everyone is in agreement is no longer relevant, as the decision to move forward in life has already been made. It is no small admission that he makes about himself here, not just as a husband, but as a leader. A leader who was meant to maintain relationships, provide security, keep the family together. He sees that he could have acted differently at certain points. He could have led better. He let anger get the better of guidance, and that's a regret that weighed heavily upon him. It took me a long time to be angry about it, he says. Angry at the wives, angry at the collapse, angry at the loss of control. But the anger exhausted itself, and then clarity came through. He speaks of it in a quiet, almost lyrical voice, a voice that suggests he is still Rele. Plural marriage failed. Not because it was illegal, not because it was rejected by society. However, since he did not possess the skill set to do so, it does not solve any problems, but it alters the tone. It turns the page. Now, attention focuses more. It is only Kody and Robyn. They're moving, literally and figuratively, away from a house that is chock full of painful memories, of bedrooms where marriages failed, of conversations that led nowhere, of frustration that reverberated through the walls. This house is for sale, effectively locking a door that should have been locked ages ago. It's a different house altogether. More space, more light, more room to breathe. Robyn could only speak of it in terms of opulence and serenity. She is convinced that God had a hand in getting them there, that the struggle was a part of it, that the chaos came before the miracle. This is hope for her. It is simplification for Kody. No more plural marriage. Not hypothetically, not someday, not we'll see. He's frightened of it now. The thought of making the same mistakes again frightens him. And Robyn is finished with playing along with the possibility of it being something she must weigh. It is not that I'm choosing to be an Amon. They're still unpacking the psychological aftermath of plural marriage. They're still discussing it, even as they repudiate it. That, of course, is the power of deep-seated beliefs. They do not dissipate in the course of a night. No, they resonate, they vibrate, they interrogate. But the answer remains the same. I'm good. This is so much more powerful than it initially appears. This is no, oh, yay. It is no, yes, it is no, let's do it. It is no, go get 'em. The future is smaller now, but clearer. And for the remainder, progress means something else. Janelle is about independence, on her own land, with her own business, with her own freedom. Meri is trying to build a life that is entirely hers, a life in which her past is separate from what she is worth. Christine is moving into a new phase of her life, reestablishing what family means for her. She is moving into a new life with a definition of family of Now, no one is chasing the dream anymore. They're chasing peace. Coyote Pass is a memory that is to come. A footnote. A time that means the world is behind it. It is to be sold. It will be paid out. It is to be closed. And then, of course, there is the end. There will be no grand finale, no dramatic, only relief. Sometimes, closure doesn't feel like forgiveness or understanding. Sometimes, it looks like silence, like distance, like a clean cut that finally allows everyone to breathe again. The family that once promised forever doesn't end the way it began. It concluded on an honest note, and that, in its own quiet way, is a kind of freedom.